जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति सुपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणरहिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते हे गोपीशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी शुभानुस्ते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतलक्ष्मीतलपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष पाश्चात्य देशतारिणीं कं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं कृपात्महं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्री चैतन्य। Hare Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya is explaining to Sanatan Goswami in the 22nd chapter of the Madhya Lila. This chapter is aptly titled The Process of Devotional Service. And like we have mentioned in the last few classes, this chapter is very central to understanding the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, especially the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. Lord Chaitanya is very meticulously and diligently spelling out in detail the principles of devotional service. And he's substantiating everything that he is saying based on scriptural verses. So this is a very important principle. We don't follow a particular philosophy just because a guru said. Whatever guru said also has to be backed by sadhu and shastra. So Lord Chaitanya said many important things, how bhakti is the highest, how bhakti is independent, how bhakti is the highest goal. He also explained about how bhakti arises. And he mentions that bhakti arises primarily by association of devotees. And then Lord Chaitanya extensively glorifies the association of devotees as not only the cause of devotion and the absolute necessary ingredient for the seed of devotion to take root, but also the factor that continues to nurture and nourish devotional service. In fact, association of devotees, Lord Chaitanya explains, he glorifies it by saying that this is so important. And this is not just association of devotees, doesn't mean here just somebody who's worshipping Krishna. What Lord Chaitanya is referring to is those who have transcendental faith. What is the transcendental faith? That they have, that the goal of their life is to develop pure devotional service to Krishna. They are convinced, Shraddha Shabde Vishwasa Kohe Sudruda Nishchaya, Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita hai. that if I simply engage in devotional service to Krishna without any other motivation, automatically I will achieve everything that I need, material and spiritual. I do not need to take shelter of any other process. When one associates with devotees who have this faith, it leads us forward on the path towards Krishna, on the path of liberation. And exactly opposite of that, those who are attached to materialistic association, that materialistic association drags them gradually lower and lower. Lord Chaitanya glorifies the association of devotees to such an extent that he says if somebody has received the association of devotees, it should be understood that he is very close to getting liberated. He is very close to getting liberated. Because the association of devotees is so potent that as soon as a person starts associating, it is very soon that he will awaken his devotional service. And once his devotional service is awakened, very soon he will be liberated from material existence. So sometimes the cause is explained to be the effect. In the sense that when somebody's term in the material world is coming to an end, he meets devotees. But actually it's the other way around, that when somebody meets devotees, that means very soon he is going to get out of the entanglement of material nature. And half a moment of association is a great treasure. Because when one associates with a very genuine sadhu, the impression that even a little bit association can create on the heart is immense. The impression on the soul. So usually, when we associate with the modes of nature, they will also create an impression. And that also impression one has to be careful in terms of what to allow, what to not allow. So those considerations are important, but those are nonetheless samskaras in the mind, the subtle body. And of course, if they're not good, they'll bother us. But the samskara of bhakti, of faith, of attraction to Krishna is not just an impression in the mind. It is something that touches the very soul. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoy Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karo. Because love for Krishna, Lord Chaitanya explains, Sadhya Kabunoy is not something to be achieved from outside. Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Karo. That this love automatically awakens in the heart of one who hears and chants in the association of devotees. And when a devotee takes shelter of the process of devotional service and he engages in hearing and chanting and other processes, gradually he becomes purified. And slowly, slowly, as the true nature of the soul is revealed, all the good qualities, spiritual qualities are manifest in his personality. So Lord Chaitanya says, very important, the summary of the practice of devotional services, associate with devotees, don't associate with materialistic people, follow diligently under the guidance of devotees, the limbs of devotional service. Take exclusive shelter of Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya emphasizes that. He's telling Sanatana Goswami that one should, with full confidence, take Krishna's shelter. This is very important. And that leap of faith is not possible without that transcendental Shraddha. And that transcendental Shraddha is not possible unless we associate with those who have the transcendental. So if that Shraddha has awakened in our heart, even to a little extent, that means we have been blessed by the association of those who have that transcendental. So take exclusive, Ananya. Ananya means don't be deviated. Don't think, oh, I have to worship this also, do this also. I have to do some jnana, I have to do some karma, I have to do some yoga, and I'll also do some Krishna bhakti so that it will top up any deficit in any other processes. No. Exclusively taking shelter of Krishna is so important that in the process of exclusively taking shelter of Krishna, even if generally a devotee is very diligent in following his material duties according to his varna and ashram. He's not careless, but in the execution of his devotional service, even if his material duties for some reason get neglected, unattended, still there is no fault. Normally, if one neglects one's occupational duties, one incurs sin. Sin is of many types. Hurting others is a sin. There are certain things which are vikarma. Vikarma means one is actually going out and doing something bad. But one category of vikarma is also neglect or non-execution of kartavya. Kartavya means what ought to be done. There are certain things what one has to do. Sometimes one says, oh, I didn't do any sins, I didn't hurt anyone, but sin is not just about going out and hurting others, cheating others, and looting others and stealing. Those are definitely sinful things. Eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex. But non-performance of duties is also the cause of incurrence of sin. So much so in the same way, like we are in a job, and we are not doing our work properly, whatever are the assigned duties to us, then we will be punished. But even if that were to happen, devotee is diligent, but even if that happens in the process of execution of their devotional service, a devotee need not fear. Lord Chaitanya quotes the Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. I will free you, Arjuna. Just fully take shelter of me. So devotees should not take undue advantage of this verse because there is a word of caution. It's not mentioned in this chapter, but Prabhupada mentions this. Sometimes people just say, I'm a devotee, I don't have any duties to anybody else. But if one simply abandons his duty out of laziness and doesn't fully take shelter of Krishna, one will still incur the sin. Just because one labels himself as a devotee and put tilak doesn't mean he becomes immune from reactions. It's to really ananyas chintayanto mam yajana paripasa. Sincerely, with full heart, Madhavendra Puri very beautifully in one verse, I don't remember the exact verse, but he says very nicely, he says, oh Devatas, please forgive me, oh ancestors, please forgive me. I know I have so many duties towards all of you. Oh Devatas, please forgive me. Ever since my mind has become attracted to this Krishna, this Sham Sundar, I'm so absorbed in just serving him and chanting his names and worshipping him that I'm so sorry, I'm unable to attend to the duties of worshipping you. That is what we are talking about. Then one's exclusion of performance of other duties is excused because one is busy with a higher duty. One simply becomes lazy. Prabhu, I'm initiated devotee. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. Nothing I need to do. Prabhupada says that if one neglects his material duty and also does not perform Krishna consciousness perfectly, then one incurs the sins of neglect of duties. So this is a warning to be kept in mind. And Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya reminds, is so kind, so kind. Even if one does little devotional service, the Lord is so grateful that he never gives up that devotee. Even if the devotee struggles, let's say the devotee does little service and because of not fully understanding the process of devotional service, he makes mistakes, the Lord doesn't give him up. It's not that only those who are very advanced in devotional service are dear to Krishna. Anyone who turns to Krishna with a little bit of sincerity, that is one very, very special quality of the original Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. He is very affectionate to him. No other form of the Lord. What to speak of the Devatas? No other form of the Lord is so affectionate to his devotees. And that is why Lord Chaitanya quotes from the Bhagavad and says, which intelligent person will not worship Krishna? Because there's every reason to worship Krishna and no good reason to not worship him. Actually, Krishna is so eager to fulfill all the desires of his devotees. Of course, he's a bit careful. He doesn't want to fulfill those desires which will put his devotees into more problem. Because he's not like the Devata who's transactional. He's genuinely interested in the welfare of his devotees. He finally wants to give himself to his devotees. That gift he wants to. So that is why when a person develops proper understanding of the greatness of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, the process of bhakti, the greatness of bhakti, and especially the greatness of Kevala Bhakti, very naturally he gives up all other trying to take shelter of any other process or any other engagement and exclusively engages in service to the Lord. And Uddhava in the Srimad Bhagavad gives a very wonderful example of this. Lord Chaitanya quotes this. There's a very, very famous verse which is often quoted. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jigamashaya apayayat api asadhi lebhe gatim dhatri uchitam tatonyam kambadayalum sharanam vrajema. That Krishna is so kind, so kind. Uddhav is saying this. How kind? He gives the example of Putana. And what example he gives? Putana came to kill Krishna. She smeared poison on her breast and tried to feed milk. But Krishna is so kind that Krishna looked into her heart, and in her heart, Krishna could see million desires, sinful desires, including the desire to kill him. But somewhere there was one small desire that Krishna noticed in her heart, which was a desire to treat Krishna as a baby and feed him milk. And Krishna is so kind that he only looked at that positive, he overlooked the negative. He, through the process of sucking the life air of Putana, purified her of all the other nonsense desires until the only desire left in Putana's heart was to please Krishna. And in that way, he gave her the perfection of attaining the spiritual world. Because she died remembering Krishna. What to speak of remembering Krishna is touching her physically. Lebhe gatim dhatri uchitam tatonyam. Dhatri gati. She didn't simply achieve liberation. Sometimes when demons are killed, they achieve liberation. But here Krishna gave her eternal residence in Goloka Vrindavan and gave her the position of a mother, a dhatri, like a nurse, an assistant to Mother Yashoda. That is Krishna's character. Somebody who comes to kill him. This is what Krishna gives. If there is some desire to serve. So that is why even though consciously one must cultivate exclusive devotion, even if one has so many other things in one's heart, but even little sincere desire to serve and please Krishna, Krishna still will grant them wonderful auspiciousness. Kamba dayalum sharanam vrajam. Else is worthy of taking shelter other than he is the most merciful. So basically, Lord Chaitanya is saying that Krishna is the worthy master. He is a worthy boss. Don't worry on that count. You will not find anybody more affectionate to his devotees than Krishna, more concerned about his devotees other than Krishna, more appreciative and appreciative of even a little service and overseeing the faults. So one must take shelter of Krishna in all situations. Now Lord Chaitanya moves into a slightly different topic. He says, for those who are free from material attachment, there are two kinds of devotees. There are those devotees who are fully satisfied, who are not at all interested in any material things. They are liberated souls. Atma Rama, they find pleasure in the self, self-realized. But higher than those who are simply self-realized and free from material nature are those who are fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord. Because both of them are transcendental, their qualities are generally same, but that special quality which really, really attracts Krishna is the quality of Atma Samarpana, full surrender. There are some Atma Ramas who are fortunate enough to get attracted to Krishna. Atma Ramas Chumunayo Nirgranthapi Ruktrame Kurvanti Ahaitukim Bhakti Mitambato Gunahari. They become so attracted to Krishna that they feel that greater than the joy of self-realization is the joy of Samarpan, is the joy of surrender, Sharanagati. And what is the Sharanagati? Very beautifully, it is explained. There are 6 limbs of Sharanagati. So there's a very beautiful verse. This is a verse which we should all know by heart. Anukulasya sankalpaha pratikulasya varjanam rakshayishyati iti vishwaso goptrutve varanam tatha atmanikshepakarpanye shadvidha sharanagati. Shadvidha sharanagati. Sharanagati or surrender, Atma Samarpan, has 6 limbs or 6 divisions. What are they? First 2 are Anukulasya Sankalpa, Pratikulasya Varjana. Accepting whatever is favorable to Krishna consciousness and rejecting or whatever is unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. Then, third, the conviction that Krishna will protect. Rakshayishyati iti vishwasu. Sometimes for us, we are like in problems, in this, in that, and oh, Krishna really protect me, really take care of me. Krishna may not deal with us in the way we want him to, but the devotee trusts that he will take care in his own way. Goptrutve Varanam. They accept Krishna, that he is my master, he is my guardian, he is my pati, he is my maintainer. Atma Nikshepa, full self-surrender. Oh Lord, whatever is your will, I accept. And Karpanya. Karpanya means humility. Oh Lord, I am so insignificant. I am nothing. You are everything. I just want to dance like a puppet dances. Srila Prabhupada writes in that beautiful song, Nachao, Nachao. Oh Lord, I'm going to the West. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't even know what exactly is your plan for me. But you are an expert puppeteer. I'm willing to be a puppet in your hands. Whatever way you want to use me to distribute mercy, please use me. Nachao, Nachao. Make me dance. So these 6 things. Anukulasya sankalpa, accepting whatever is favorable. Pratikulasya varjana, giving up those things which are unfavorable. Shashyatiti vishwaso, strong confidence that Krishna will protect me. Trutve varanam, that the Lord is my maintainer and protector. Atma nikshepa, surrendering oneself fully to the Lord's wishes and desires, and extreme humility. Shadvida Sharanagati. So if somebody asks you, what is this surrender that you're talking about? It's not just simply about saying, oh Lord, I surrender, and then just go about doing whatever one wants. If one is actually surrendered to the Lord, one must manifest these 6 limbs of surrender. And one whose body In this way is fully surrendered to the Lord, and he takes shelter of the Lord in a holy place where the Lord has performed his pastimes. Comes to the Lord, let's say in Vrindavan, for example. To the Lord, oh Krishna, I fully surrender to you. Oh Lord, I am yours. Tava asmi. When he surrenders to the Lord like that, the whole sense of the surrender is, oh Lord, I am yours. That is the bottom line. And that's what the whole thing ultimately means. I am yours. I'm for your enjoyment. I'm for your service. I have no other independent desires. Lord Chaitanya says, as soon as a devotee surrenders to the Lord like this, surrenders to Krishna's lotus feet, Krishna accepts a surrendered devotee and gives him the position as one of his associates. Sharanagati or Atma Samarpan is the gateway to entry into the spiritual world. Only when one dedicates one's life like this, then the Lord then makes the devotee fit to enjoy the spiritual bliss of direct association with him in exchanging loving devotional service. My dear Sanatan, Lord Chaitanya says, now I will explain to you. I've explained to you so many. Now I explain to you the details of how one should execute regulative devotional service. If one follows this process of regulative devotional service, then one will eventually attain this perfection of love of Godhead, which is the topmost treasure. So please understand, at a high level, amongst the stages of bhakti, there is sadhana bhakti, there is bhava bhakti, and there is prema bhakti. In one journey towards perfection. Sadhana bhakti means the love for the Lord hasn't truly awakened. Faith in the Lord may have awakened, some attraction towards the Lord may have awakened, but devotional emotion and realization of one's identity hasn't yet arisen. In such a state, when one engages in devotional service to the Lord, driven by faith and the instructions of one's spiritual master, one engages one's senses, the material senses, in the service of the Lord, that kind of bhakti, which leads to love. Love is not there yet, but this kind of faithful devotional service rendered by the senses, because one is still in the material body, one's spiritual body has not awakened. So, with one's senses, karmendriyas and jnanendriyas, one executes bhakti or the limbs of bhakti. That kind of bhakti is known as sadhana bhakti. Sadhana means practice. So, in very simple words, the initial stage of bhakti is the practice of bhakti, regulated. Regulated means one does it in a very, very systematic form. So one may say that if bhakti is in one's heart, why one has to do in a regulated form? Because it is still not awakened. It is still in a dormant form. Slowly, through the execution of sadhana bhakti, as the heart becomes purified, the awakening of eternal devotion which is there in our heart, Shravan Adi Shuddha Chitte, when through sadhana bhakti the chitta becomes Shuddha, Karho Uday. The potentiality that is there in the jiva becomes awakened through sadhana bhakti practice. Sadhana bhakti takes one to the stage of bhava bhakti, where one feels ecstatic emotion. Then eventually to prem. Prem means 100% purified. Nothing remains. Bhava means almost when spiritual emotions arise, one can even understand one's spiritual identity. But still one has little bit traces from material energy. Prema bhakti means 100%. Then Lord Chaitanya says, let me describe to you, Sanatan, the details of what this sadhana bhakti is. Because all of us, how many are there in bhava and prema? Even amongst devotees, Narayana Para, the one who's actually fully surrendered to Narayana, is very, very rare. It's not quoted here, but elsewhere, Lord Chaitanya in his teachings earlier, we have discussed this. He says that Siddhanam api siddhanam Narayana Parayana Sudurlavo Prashantatma Kotishwapi Mam. Out of crores and crores of great sages, not ordinary people, hardly you will find one person who has fully taken shelter of Narayana or Krishna in this. So even among so many who are performing sadhana bhakti, very, very few will would have come to bhava and prema. So for us at this stage, while we know that our goal is prema, what is important for us now that we have developed some faith, we have got the fortune of association of devotees. All the basic ingredients are there. Now what it is, now what we need to do, understand the process of sadhana. And sadhana bhakti essentially consists of the execution of the limbs of bhakti. Spiritual activities, hearing, chanting, remembering. And these activities gradually, what is their result of performance of these activities? They will awaken one's love for Krishna. Lord Chaitanya reminds Sanatana Goswami, please understand, I am telling you again, it is not that the jiva has to get love for Krishna from outside. It is there. Because each and every living entity is eternally part and parcel of the Lord. In his constitution itself, love for the Lord is there. But because he has been away from the Lord, Bahirmukha, for such a long time, that love has become covered over. Like water which flows normally. When you keep it in the fridge for too long, it solidifies. You take out a cube of ice, is this water? You say, no, it's not water. It's not water. It is like a stone. Actually, it is water. It's just frozen. But if you keep that piece of ice outside in the warm, then slowly it will melt and redisplace original qualities of the water. Similarly, the frozen heart, the materialistic heart of the conditioned soul, when it experiences the warmth of bhakti, the execution of these processes, the heart will slowly become soft and melt, and love for Krishna will be manifested. So this prema is not to be brought from anywhere else, Lord Chaitanya says. Satya kabunay, Shravan adi shuddha chitte karaha uday. Through the process of hearing, chanting, etc., that love naturally awakens. This is very, very important. So sometimes we say that, association of devotees. Yes, association of devotees activates that desire which is dormant, which has become almost like asleep for millions of lifetimes, becomes awakened when one receives the association of saintly devotees. Now, Lord Chaitanya enters a very important area of discussion. This is Sanatan. I'm going to explain to you the process of sadhana bhakti. But before I go and get into the details, let me explain to you that sadhana bhakti itself has two parts. Or there are two processes or ways in which sadhana bhakti is practiced. One is known as Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, or the practice of regulated devotional service, and another is Raganuga sadhana bhakti, which is the process of spontaneous devotional service. It is best if one's devotional service is spontaneous. Spontaneous means that one just by themselves feels impelled to serve Krishna. One wants by himself. One doesn't have to be told, now do this, now do that. One is naturally attracted to serving Krishna, naturally attracted to performance of devotional service. Because one has that attraction, that kind of spontaneous devotional service is desirable. And that kind of bhakti is known as Raganuga. But those who have not attained the platform of that spontaneous attraction, which means most of us, it is important that even though they do not feel the desire to render service naturally, automatically, one still does and executes the limbs of devotional service as a duty, as a regulative principle. What that means in simple way? Simple way, it means whether one likes to wake up or not, one wakes up early. When one likes or not, one worships the deity. When likes or not, one offers naivedya, does arti. If one likes or not, one still chants the holy name. Some days one may like, some days one may not like. And that is not spontaneous devotion. One will chant the holy names every day. No matter. That kind of bhakti is known as Vaidhi. Vaidhi means, the word Vaidhi comes from the word Vidhi. Vidhi means rules and regulations. So you don't yet have love. You have faith, but you don't have love. So you will not spontaneously, correct? What spontaneous means here is, of course, there are more deeper meanings of spontaneous, but Prabhupada explains it in very simple ways. Right? Huh? Prabhupada explains spontaneous means, initially a person is very reluctant to study. One goes to school, one's parent is, come, open your book, study, study. I don't want to study. No. Unless you study, I'll not give you your phone. The students, okay, I'll study for some time. So he forcibly studies. Every day, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m., you have to study and do your homework. That is Vaidhi Bhakti. As a person studies and he, over time, even though initially he does in a regulated way, slowly he acquires taste in the subject. He enjoys the subject. He starts contemplating more and more. He becomes attracted to the subject and then he wants to study. Nobody has to tell him, you pick up the book. Nobody has to tell him, you study. But they are naturally inclined to study. And this is one example Prabhupada gives to indicate what is Raganuga. So Raganuga is where one is not impelled by rules, but impelled by attraction. Raga, Anuga. Raga means intense attraction to the Lord, attachment to the Lord. Anuga means following. There's a more deeper meaning to Raganuga, but we'll not get into that today. Today I just want to focus on understanding of this essential difference because that's what the Lord explains here. So it is very important for those who have not developed that attraction, which is practically all of us, those who have become fortunate to develop faith, but those who have not developed spontaneous devotion service, they have to follow Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So Sadhana Bhakti, everyone starts with Sadhana Bhakti. And nobody jumps into Bhava and Prem. If you suddenly see somebody in Bhava, he comes to your class first time and he suddenly is truly in ecstatic mood, ecstatic devotion. That means they have they have already attained that state since previous lives. Only one has to do sadhana bhakti for considerable time before one can come to the stage of bhava. So Lord Chaitanya says, now I will explain to you about this process of devotion. It's very important that these regulative principles of devotion be established. Please understand, Sanatan, it is very important. It is not simply adequate to perform one's kartavya according to varna and ashram duties and think I am doing that duty, so I am devoted to Lord. It's a very external thing. If one is simply engaged in following one's varna ashram duties but does not actually worship the Lord and follow the principles of regulative devotional service, eventually one will fall down. One will not attain the higher the goal of life simply by execution of varnashram duties. The main bottom line guiding principles for spiritual perfection is very simple. स्मर्तव्य सततम विष्णु विस्मर्तव्य न जातुचित सर्वे विधि निषेधा स्युर एतयोर एव किंकर. Don't forget this guiding principle. Guiding principle for spiritual advancement is two things. Smartavya sadatam Vishnu. Always remember the Lord. And what is the second principle? Vismartavya na chatuchit. Never forget him. So bhakti is about always remembering the Lord. And if one is simply busy with doing external material duties, even though they are duties given by the Lord through the scriptures, and that is an indirect form of worship of the Lord, that is not adequate to awaken one's love for the Lord. One must actively remember the Lord and not forget the Lord, and that is why sadhana bhakti must be executed according to the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the scriptures. Or, in other words, all rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras are servant to this principle, or rather these two principles. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. So now I will explain to you. Since I have explained to you, Sanatan is very, very important to follow the principles, regulative principles of devotional service, and the full focus of the regulative principles of devotional service is to not forget Krishna. Always remember Krishna, not forget Krishna. So, basis this fundamental principle, many rules of regulative devotional service has come up. And I will tell you the essence. They can be expanded in so many ways, but I will tell you the essential practices. There are roughly 64 practices of devotional service. So I will explain them to you. And they are all basically expansions of this principle that I mentioned, which means there are some things which help one remember the Lord. They are the favorable things. So there will be certain things which are favorable. There will be some things which you should not do, because if you do, you'll forget Krishna. Those are also listed. So these are the regulative principles of devotional service. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here. I will discuss the 64 items in detail in the next class. The details. So any questions or comments on what we have discussed so far? Okay, fine. Thank you so much. So we will continue, and I'll see you on Saturday, where we'll continue our discussion on the Bhagavad. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai, Samaveta. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Archana ji, Leela Mata ji, Sneha ji, Sri Mata
Thank you,
ji,
Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Suraj Haribol,
Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you.
Vinod Prabhu, Anand Sundari Mata ji, all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Prabhu.